Hi, my name is Mark. So welcome to another episode of Guitarist's Week. For those who don't really know, again, I think the title is pretty self-explanatory. In this series, I pretty much talk about anything that happened during last week in the guitar/music industry that I either think was interesting, funny, or at least discussion-worthy. We've done a couple of episodes so far, which I think that if you're interested in this sort of stuff, you can check out. Again, I'll leave the playlist with those videos in the card section right there. And just like in last week, we don't really have that much stuff going on. At least not that much stuff that fits the criteria I mentioned before. But on the list of the few things that happened, some of them were pretty interesting. Again, this isn't in chronological order, nor in any order of things that I find more interesting than others. Basically, the first one I see on the screen is the first one I'll talk about. And the first thing I want to talk about is this video by Rick Beato and Rad Scholl and the guy from Dojo Guitar Repair. I'm sorry, I don't remember your name. But basically, it's this video where they discuss whether vintage gear is worth the money or not. And I think most of us already knew the reason, but anyways, I think it's interesting that we talk about these sorts of things, especially because I talked about some interesting things that I didn't really had considered before. Again, it's something that I thought was particularly interesting, and like I said before, even though I don't dislike the videos that Rick is doing right now of, for instance, what makes a song great, again, I like those videos, but I've been subscribed to Rick for a long time now, and I actually subscribed when he was doing those film scoring videos talking about Star Wars and Shawshank Redemption and stuff like that. And those were the videos that I originally subscribed for, and then I stayed for the other guitar-related videos with lessons and stuff like that. Again, I really like those as well, and I really like these discussion videos with him, Rat, and whoever's around. And I actually thought that one of his other videos that he released last week, where he played guitar along to some songs on the top charts that didn't really have guitar, and maybe could become better with guitar on it, I really thought that video was great, and I really thought the video about vintage guitars was great, and I actually wouldn't mind if those videos were a little bit more common, maybe. Another thing that I thought was interesting is that we're going to get new videos from Fratelli Americana. Again, for those who don't know, Phil X, now guitarist for Bon Jovi, got a little bit of internet recognition from doing videos with them, where they just basically played vintage guitars and showed vintage guitars to people. Again, at first people would watch the videos for the guitars, but then I think many of them just stayed for Phil, because Phil's awesome. But then because of the Bon Jovi gig, Phil didn't really have the time to do those videos anymore, and they had this little period where they tried to do it with Jared James Nichols, but then I think Jared started gigging more, and he is now much more famous than he was back then. And the same thing with this other guy whose band I don't really remember, which I actually didn't dislike, and I don't really know if he just got more work in his band or something like it, which on Fratelli Americana's social media, they mentioned that he was going to be a mainstay, and they would try to schedule out regular content. And the guy is Mark Zevon, or Mark Zevon, I don't really remember how to pronounce it, who I already knew before, because he plays on the band Kill Devil Hill, along with Rex Brown, bassist for Pantera, and some other great musicians from like Dio and stuff like that. I actually found out about their band in the EMG Pickups channel, and if you like that more old school metal, sort of like Black Sabbath, but a little bit more heavy and stuff like that, I really think you'll enjoy their music. I think you should check it out. And they made this video basically showing off their new host, and I actually thought it was particularly funny, because in that video, Mark is playing a Frameless XG. Even though it has some extra mods that Phil probably wouldn't get, he was playing one of Phil X's previous and most notorious presenters' signature guitars. I'm not sure if it was just a guitar they had laying around, or it's actually a guitar that's his, but anyways, I think the guitar was pretty cool, and I think it was actually very interesting that he chose that guitar to play for the Say Hello to Me video. Not only because I know the guy's band and I actually like his tone and stuff like that, because he doesn't really know that much about vintage guitars as maybe like Phil did. I think he will probably give an interesting perspective to those videos, and I can't really wait to see some of them. And before I get to the other subjects, I just want to say, please subscribe to my channel. As you're probably aware, YouTube acts a little bit weird. Even if you subscribe to the channel, those channel's videos may really not show up in that subscription box. And even if you ring the little notification bell thingy below, you still really will not be notified of channel's content. So if you want to sit into my videos, not only do I suggest subscribing and turning on all the notifications, but also follow me on social media. Not only do I post some exclusive stuff there, like improvised solos and jamming over backing tracks, and generally wherever I'm up to at the moment, but I always post that about my videos. Links for the usual suspects will be below, like Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, but in general, at Mark Enrique's Guitar, and since you're down there, please consider leaving a like and share this video on social media. I'd highly appreciate it. Another thing that I thought was interesting last week was last week's episode of Guitar's Holes. Again, it's a guitar/music news related podcast presented by Levi Clay, a notorious guitar instructor / guy who'll say anything that's on his mind, which I can appreciate. And Mike, I don't really remember his last name. He's K-Mac 2021's brother, by the way. And not only did they talk about basic guitar related news, but they actually talked about a subject that they had already talked about in the previous week's episode, which was this like Guns N' Roses super fanboy getting banned from Guns N' Roses shows just for having bought these old demos that the band made. And when I talked about it, I didn't really think it was discussion worthy because I was like, well, yeah, the guy is saying that he was banned, but we don't really have the full story and whatever. Let's see if something else comes to the surface. And voila, it did. Because in the last week's episode, they actually got the guy who was banned to do an interview with them and share his story. And I really suggest you guys go listen to it, because it's pretty interesting seeing that the management from Guns N' Roses just banned a guy like that without really having much of an explanation. They started to incriminate the guy, saying that the guy got some demos that were not supposed to be his and then leaked them on the internet and stuff like that, which the guy was like, well, that's not true and that's not what happened, and I talked to some other guys and stuff like that. Again, I don't really want to spoil it, because I really think you guys should go watch that video or listen to that podcast and actually go talk about it online, because people should be talking about this way more. A guy getting banned from Guns N' Roses concerts for something like that, it's completely bullshit. Again, go watch the video for the full story and tell me what you guys think, and tell everybody about this that you know, because I really think that everybody should know about this. And before we get to gear, I just have this kind of musical suggestion, I guess. You may have seen Zach Zinger in some of Adam Neely's videos. Even though he plays many instruments, I think he's mainly known for playing saxophone, and now the shakuhachi flute, this Japanese flute. And those who follow my content probably know that because I'm a big Marty Friedman and big anime fan, I'm really into Oriental music. Therefore, the sound of a shakuhachi flute or something like it, and that sort of phrasing, is something that's deeply embedded into my musical taste, I guess. And Zach has been releasing a few videos of him playing the shakuhachi over these sort of jazz songs, which at first I was like, will it work? I'm not really sure. But then I listened to a couple of them and I was like, well, yeah, it definitely works. And that's really cool. And last week he released a new song called An American in Tokyo. And again, it's not like it's the best song he made, but because I hadn't really talked about it in previous weeks, I decided to talk about it now. Not necessarily go listen to this song only, but go listen to all of his other songs on the shakuhachi. Again, the guy is pretty talented. If you don't believe me, go check out his songs or the solo he played in Adam Neely's Adele cover. Again, I really liked it, and I think that maybe you guys will like it too. And now getting into gear, because we talked about it in last week's episode. In last week's episode, we talked about Fender releasing this like teaser trailer just titled "You'll Never Play a Fender the Same Way," and I think most of us were able to figure out that it was going to be like this more modern line of Fenders, probably a replacement to the Elite series. And I don't know about you guys, but at least for me, even though I can really appreciate the fact that it comes already with locking tuners, and I can really appreciate the fact that the neck joint is now a little bit more curved and a little bit more shallow and a little bit less tall, and I can definitely appreciate Rosewood being back. In general, I just saw those models and I was like, meh. Like, don't get me wrong, I bet they sound great and they play great, and I haven't really dealt too much with the Elite series, but I definitely thought it was interesting that on the Elite series, not only did the fretboard have a compound radius, but also the neck. The fretboard would get a little bit more straight or less round when you went up the neck, and so did the neck. The neck got a little bit thinner close to the end, and again, I thought that was an interesting choice for Fender, and now in their new Ultra series, they got rid of that. Again, maybe the general audience of players didn't really like it, but I did, and I was kind of bummed out that they left it out on the spec list for these new models. And yeah, they got some fancy electronics with the S1 switching and stuff like that, but again, in general, when I looked at all the models, even though there are some interesting finish like that Mocha burst is pretty cool, in general, I looked at those models and I was like, meh. Did you guys feel the same way, or did you guys really like it? I know that Fender takes a safer approach, which is to say, okay, the American Standard, or now the American Professional line, is just a Strat with the regular neck joint and the regular tuners. And if you want something a little bit more modern, now you have to get the Ultra series. And again, I know that there are some purists who will want the neck joint to be like it was on the 1950s, and the tuners to be non-locking and stuff like that. But I wouldn't mind it at all that my Fender guitars, like my Tele, my Strat, and the, let's not talk about that too much for now. You'll see it in time. I wouldn't really mind, in fact I would prefer it, that my Fender guitars would have locking tuners by standard, and that they would have the more comfortable neck joint. Again, for the purists, yeah, that's probably not how it came on the 1950s, but does anyone nowadays actually care about that? Again, tell me what you think in the comment section below. And since we're talking about Fender guitars, let's now talk about some Fender style guitars by Sir Guitars. Again, it's probably something that's not new. I haven't gone online to confirm it, but basically they just posted some photos of these models that were on sale, I guess. and they had this very interesting neck carve. Again, it's still a bolt-on, which I'm not really that much of a fan of, at least that block style of neck joint, but it had an interesting carve that was kind of triangular, and I was like, wait, did they actually do this before? I don't remember them doing this before. I guess that's the more traditional model that they do, but would it be that much of a difference? Again, I'm supposing that some of you guys watching this are purists. Would it make that much of a difference to you between having this block style or having the more contoured style? Again, I can't really find a way to justify having that sort of uncomfortable block there. Again, tell me your thoughts on the comment section below. And some other news that for some people were controversial was that Kerry King was now working with Dean guitars instead of BC Reach guitars for his signature guitars. And even though, like, let's be honest, there's not really that much of a difference, the guitars are going to be pretty much the same. And even the Dean headstock is now more close to a BC Reach guitar. In fact, that actually reminds me of like an insect jaw, but that's not what we're talking about today. BC Reach guitars haven't really been that present on the market recently, and even though now they're trying to make a comeback, I'm not really sure if now that they lost Kerry King, they're going to do that much better. Again, what do you guys think about Kerry King leaving BC Reach for Dean guitars? I'm not really that much of a Slayer fan, but maybe those of you who are have a stronger opinion. Again, tell me in the comment section below. And another interesting guitar, again, shall I call it interesting, is this 335 that Gibson reissued that was from Alvin Lee. Basically, Gibson did this custom shop reissue of his guitar, and I think the main thing that makes it different from other 335s is the fact that it has a metal single coil. It will sort of give you those strat tones, but honestly, I don't really know how to feel about that guitar, because I really like the idea of it having like a middle single coil pickup, but then that like black bar where the pickup sits, I don't really like it. I think it makes the guitar really ugly for me. Sure, the ES335 is a semi-hollow guitar, and maybe it wouldn't be easy to just install it directly into the guitar, and this is of course a recreation of a guitar that already exists. It's not like it's a new model, but again, maybe for some of you it will be different. But for me, when I first looked at the guitar, it was like, well, yeah, I can definitely get behind that. But then the more I look at it, I'm like, maybe not yet, maybe get away, maybe, yeah, maybe keep some, no, maybe, Again, tell me what you guys think. But yeah, I guess that's it. Again, thank you so very much for watching. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe, turn on all the notifications, follow me on social media, and if you can, share this video on social media, I'd highly appreciate it. It would be really cool if you guys could check out some of my other videos. Again, not only do I do this Guitarist Week series, but I also do some guitar lessons. Again, not only soloing and improvising and playing out of the box and stuff like that, but I also do this series called Bass Tricks for Guitar. Again, for those who don't really know, I actually started out on bass and gigged around for a couple of years before I eventually moved on to guitar. So when I came to guitar playing, I guess I read some things from my bass playing that maybe some of you who didn't really start out on bass either don't think about or don't think about consciously. So yeah, I guess it's pretty much self-explanatory. If you didn't really start out on bass, go check out that series. There's probably something you can learn from it. And I also have this series of interesting licks where I transcribe and tap down a lick that I either think is interesting or the lick itself is a little bit different from what whoever played the lick usually plays. So you can check out that series as well. And I also do composing and songwriting lessons. Again, not only sharing tips and tricks and showing how music theory works and how to apply chords and stuff like that, but I'm also doing this series where I write a song and show you guys my process. Again, you can go check it out. Not only that series, but all the other series I mentioned before will be on the card section right there. And if you actually have any suggestions for videos, I have this dedicated series called Hate, You Ask I Teach. I know, pretty boring, generic, and self-explanatory title, but as you can probably guess, and as the name implies, in that series I pretty much teach anything you guys have in the comment section below. Again, guitar and or music related, of course. So if there's something you'd like me to talk about, just leave it in the comment section below with the hashtag hate. So as you can see, I already have a little bit of a back catalog going on, so if you guys could check it out, it could be really, really cool. But yeah, I guess that's it. Again, thank you so much for watching. If you leave a like, comment, subscribe, turn on all the notifications, follow me on social media, and if you can, share this video on social media. And cheers!